much of North Carolina, and particularly white North Carolina, Terry Sanford was a symbol of progress. I don't think that for those of us who were experiencing the segregation, that he was that. It's hard for you to see someone who is talking about making changes as opposed to someone who is making changes. Now, he may have been making changes in accordance with the social structure that enabled him to do it in the way that he could do it, but that didn't relieve the pressure from us.
In '62, he was the first governor to visit in significant numbers African American schools, and he had a speech he gave. You know, you need to work hard, do your homework, have high ambitions, and education will take you anywhere in the world. And there is this kind of pivotal moment in which he's sort of forced to come to terms with himself and the limitations of that vision. He writes in an unpublished autobiography about coming back to the governor's mansion one night. It's time for dinner and he can't eat. He sort of realized that he's something of a fraud, that the story and the admonitions he's offering to those students, that none of that's going to come true. He begins to connect race and education and poverty in ways that he hadn't before. And he begins to make the case to himself and then later to the public that the only way to liberate all North Carolinians from poverty is to liberate Black North Carolinians from Jim Crow.
When Brown versus Education came down from the U.S. Supreme Court, North Carolina, like a lot of other states, was not at all certain what it was going to do. And a lot of people in a lot of states wanted to close the public schools rather than desegregate them.
Anyone who had observed understood that the separate but equal was only half right. It was separate, for sure. While we were in North Carolina talking about quality education and how we were going to improve it, Virginia, the state of great enlightenment, was promoting massive resistance to the Supreme Court decision. And of course, you know what they were doing in Alabama and Mississippi and even South Carolina.
Some 200 angry whites began pelting them with rocks.
We will not sacrifice our children to any such type school system, and you can write that down.
Certain developments and alignments threaten the continuance of the North Carolina way. We cannot permit this to happen. It would be stark tragedy now to see destroyed that moral and financial support enjoyed by our public schools.
As I came into office, Greensboro, Charlotte, and Winston-Salem, they'd voluntarily said we're integrating. The others were waiting to be pushed. And then as we were coming in, Raleigh made the great step. It's somewhat ludicrous to think that one little student in the second grade in one school in Raleigh was integration.
North Carolina had made all of the voluntary desegregation it was going to make. A lot of the talk that was very progressive for North Carolina was liberal talk, but it wasn't concrete actions. You know, if you are locked in a room and I'm on the outside and I'm saying, I know that you need to be free and I'm working on it, at a certain point you're going to want me to stop telling you that you're working on getting you out of the room and want me to open the door.
I wonder to what extent and how difficult the decision was for you to send your own child to a desegregated school.
It had to be done, and so in a way you'd view that as an opportunity. I didn't want to exploit it. Margaret Rose took them to the school.
And there was all the press from all the magazines. Terry was really sort of praised for letting his children go to public schools, you know, and all that.
If the governor doesn't take strong and determined positions, the schools will not make the progress that they must make if our state is to be what it must be, and if our boys and girls are to have a chance in life that they must have.